from the Fire, I met Bob Voice and Dick Dufal, who were the bass player and the drummer, and we formed Paul Brett Sage, which was my own band in the way back. And then we did 3 albums, I think, and then I went solo with the fiddle player Mick Higgett. We went out as a duo with Status Quo, and then I went solo after that. I've been that way ever since. I teamed up with Johnny Joyce, the British 12-string guitar legend, who sadly died in 2004, but he was the one who got me into 12-string in the first place. And a little bit of upfront news. Hang on, the bloody cat's just coming and he's just about to meow.
That's all right. It's nice to have some guests on as well.
Not this one. Once he starts, that's it.
That's all right.
We've got a bit of news later on in the year where hopefully Vintage going to put I've designed a 12-string tribute to Johnny Joyce. It's a new model which will come out 12 and 6 later on in the year.
Amazing.
So that's a bit of upfront news for you.
Amazing.
And Johnny was great. You know, I mean, he was the only one that in the early days that was over here playing sort of fingerstyle 12-string blues. And he's a bit of a legend to a lot of people. He also, him and I worked for Aria Guitars, and we both designed for Aria in the 70s. And John was a major quality control person. He was also one of the best sort of repairers. And we did a duo for quite a while, but mainly folk and blues and jazz, bit of jazz. We did Rubek's Take 5 and Summertime. And then a lot of Blind Willie McTell, Lead Belly stuff, with 6 and 12-string guitars. You know, John was playing the 12 and I was playing 6-string lead, and we were both splitting the singing. So we did that for quite a while. We toured Europe and toured the UK for quite a bit. And then Sage thing split up. I went solo and I put out the first 12-string guitar suite in the mid-70s called Earthbirth, which was a completely solo 12-string guitar, which did very, very well. I was released in 24 territories worldwide, and I got a 4-album deal with RCA because of it. And that went on for a number of years. And then the second album was we expanded the lineup, and I met up with Tom Newman, who produced Tubular Bells for Oldfield. And he produced Interlife for me. We did it at Capital Radio, which was the first commercial album done there. And that was good. It was a big band lineup. I had a Stones brass section on it. Rod Coons, who was the drummer of the Straws at the time, and Lyle Harper, who was a really, really good bass player. Good musicians on it, Derek Austin. And then it went on from there. We did another couple of albums, and then I did. My manager says to me, "Oh, you need a hit." I said, "Well, I'm not interested in that. I've had them before with the bands, you know, and they sort of peter out when the band peters out."
Yeah.
And then he said, "No, you need a hit." He said, "KTEL want to do an album with you, 16 golden grapes for you and the London Symphony Orchestra." So I thought, oh shit, 16, because up till then I've been doing all my own original material.
Yeah.
And I got together with the guys from KTEL and the producers, and Richard Harvey, the arranger, who's a brilliant arranger and musician. And we actually did 16 tracks, and it was called Romantic Guitar, and it actually went quite high up in the charts for quite a few weeks, which surprised me no end. But it wasn't the sort of...
That's not the attitude at all.
Well, you know, I was doing all right up until then, and then they started coming out with all this nonsense about, oh, you want to tour now with the Rose of Romance Orchestra. We can form one, and it just didn't appeal to me. It was nice, but I just wanted to go back to doing what I was doing. So, I went back with Johnny, and we went back on the road, and I didn't really, sort of carry that theme on from, on the romantic guitar side, and I moved on to other things. But the 12-string thing really appealed to me, and I wanted to establish that, because I was really interested in learning to play it in my style. I mean, John was a blues player, and I learned a lot of finger picking off of John, because it's an entirely different technique, 12-string. You've got to pluck 2 strings as one, which is the hardest thing.
It's a scale I don't possess.
Well, the 6-string is all left-hand speed really when you're playing lead stuff, and you revert it 12-string. It's a lot of right-hand technique more so. So I developed it anyway. We put Earthbirth out, and it was really good, and then it led to another few albums after that, and then they were all really jazz funk stuff like that. I followed the same theme, bit of classical and acoustic stuff in there, and in the subsequent albums, which is Into Life, Eclipse, and the last one was Guitar Trek. Unfortunately, that was a really good album, Guitar Trek, but it came out at the same time as KTEL put Romantic Guitar out, so all the kind of attention went to Romantic Guitar, because the business heads were sort of thinking, the album,
Right, okay.
But musically, it was fine, as an album. Everybody did a great job on it. It took me a day to play it all.
It's not bad going.
One-string melodies. But, the actual overall thing was it came out really well. And I'm probably one of the only British guitar players. There's not many of us that have actually had chart albums, solo players, acoustic players. There's not many of us. So I suppose, if that's anything to kind of put on the CV, that
it's definitely
quite well.
It's definitely an accomplishment in itself.
We moved on from there, And then after that, we went. I met my partner Michelle Breeze, who just finished starring in Evita for Lloyd Webber, and we formed a little unit, and we moved really over to the light entertainment side then, and we formed like big shows going out all over the world, performing, all sorts. So it's been interesting so far.
So, you mentioned there's going to be a 6 and a 12-string variant coming out down the line, obviously as a tribute to John. Out of interest, would there be anything else you would like to see from Vintage down the line as well, over and above that?
I'm not. No, we. If I have an idea, I'd put it up to Paul Smith and Dennis, and we kick it about a bit. And as I say, with the new 6 and 12 that's been designed for tribute to John Joyce, Dennis really wanted to do it anyway because he knew he worked with John in the past, and we both had history with him, and also he's sort of like an unsung hero in that genre of. John Remborn used to call him Dead Thumb because he just used to. He had this claw pick that was always sort of, almost looked like his hand wasn't moving. But John used to call him Dead Thumb. And of course, we both had history. Remborn played with John for quite a while. And in the early days, John played with a lot of the blues stars that came over here from America. And he was on the same bill as them. But he was fanatical about Lead Belly and Blind Willie McTell, which is how really I got into it. And I'm really pleased to be able to put something out as a tribute to him, because it keeps his name alive. I mean, just before he died, he said to me, whatever you do, see if you can keep the name going, and I've kind of been true to that, because, without his sort of, when I first heard him, he was playing in a pub in Twickenham with a group called the Levee Breakers. And there was 3 of them, including Bob Dylan was after she initially married John Martin, the girl in there, Beverly Martin. She's a solo artist in her own right, but I mean, I know Dylan was sniffing around, but she married John Martin. And when I heard him, and I heard John play solo States for Blues, there was about 100 people in there. no PAs in them days in the folk clubs, and it was just such a massive sound.
Yeah.
You know that because having used to up till then using stacks and electric guitars, and you don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
But when you're on that stage with no PA playing an acoustic guitar,
It's a different feeling.
and the audience are like 2 feet away from me, you know, sitting there watching.
Yeah.
And I heard John do States for Blues, and I got hooked ever since, you know, on the actual the completeness of the performance, you know. That was it really to me. It was like a big travelling piano, you know, that he was playing there. In those days he played a guild, and he was just hammering it out, and like, you know, I was right at the back, and there was no way you could hear it, you know. I mean, these days it's all plug in and this, that, and the other. But you have to remember in those days, you know, we didn't have pickups on acoustic guitars. You know, you used to get more feedback than anything when you try to turn them up a bit, you know. But they've come a long way since then. But it was great, and that's it really. How I, if I get an idea for something, I run it up by the guys up there, by Paul and Dennis, and you know, if they like it, we'll go with it. And that's the way it happens.
Well, I'm glad they have, obviously, for this one, because it sounds like it's, you know, a well-deserved tribute, and I think it's good for, obviously, John to get the kind of recognition he deserves as well. And like you say, to kind of keep the name alive and such, you know, it's a nice thing to do, you know.
Yeah, I'm pleased with it.